coming back to my channel, and today we are going to do 5 Dollar Tree crafts under $5. Well, each of them are under $5 to make. I wanted to challenge myself a little bit and do things that were only stuff from the Dollar Tree, with the exception of like the paint and the glue and that kind of thing. I did not include that when I was figuring in the $5 cost, but I was really excited, when I decided I was going to do this, and at the same time, a little nervous because I do rely on the fact that I have a Cricut a lot of times when I'm doing my crafting. It's really helpful to have that and to use it for wording and kind of just adding a finishing touch to things. So, but I did it. So I was really excited and very proud of myself that I was able to do it all without using my Cricut and with only using materials that you can find from the Dollar Tree. So go ahead and take a look at everything I made. Let me know what your favorite one is down in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe. And I'll see you next time. Bye.
Alright, so our first DIY is going to be those little triangle Christmas trees. And first what we'll start off with is going to be 2 pieces of scrapbook paper. I decided to do 2 that were different, and just an FYI, if you're having a problem with the triangle, one thing you can do is print out one large triangle and then basically like shift it and move it on the foam board to cut it out. That's what those little triangles right there are, is they are foam board from the Dollar Tree. That way you can just trace that onto your scrapbook paper, and then here in a minute you'll see we're going to do is glue that on top of the foam board. So I did, initially I didn't do this, but what you need to do is to cut out 2 of each triangle. So initially I just cut out one of everything and then had to go back and cut out another one of everything. So I do end up just gluing it down with my glue stick. I just have decided that is my preferred method of sticking scrapbook paper to something. And then what I'll do is I'll just go in and clean it up a little bit just to kind of give it a nice little edge. If you really want to, you can probably skip this step depending on how much overhang you end up having, because you are going to put that paper on each side. So once you've gotten it all cleaned up the way you want, you're just going to put the other side on as well. Now this is kind of based on whichever way is your preference. On this tree only, I actually painted it the side of it, and you could even really skip this too if you wanted to. I painted it after I put on my paper, and I only did it on this one tree, and then the other ones I ended up painting the side of it before putting on the paper, and I would definitely say that that is much easier because you're not worried about how neat that you are. So just an FYI, paint the edges and everything before you put on your scrapbook paper, so you don't have to worry about it if you're going to paint them. If you do a really clean edge, you could really get away without doing it. So we're taking that Be Grateful sign, also from Dollar Tree, just like everything else, and I'm going to just paint white around the edges. That way what we're going to do is we're just painting all of that and then let it dry. I just do 1 coat, and I take these little skewers, they are from Dollar Tree as well, and you're just going to stick the non-pointy end, the end that I ended up breaking. I just broke them in half with my hands, nothing real fancy. And then you'll stick the pointy end up in the foam board part. It just depends on how tall you want them. Just keep it in mind if you want them all the same height, if you want different heights. I kind of wanted to keep it different, but not drastically different, if that makes sense. And then on the other end of it, I of course have just that floral foam stuff. Next, we are going to, since we let our little box dry a little, we are going to go in with some of that antique wax. That one is from Folk Art, and I'm just going to go over it just to give it a little bit of a wood look. Depending on how dark you want it, or if you want to leave it white, just, painting it basically to your preference. I liked trying to make it a little bit more like wood, just because I felt like it did a little something for it. rather than just leaving it white. I was actually really close on the border of not painting it at all because it actually had a little bit of that checkered print to it, but I decided it wasn't red enough. It just didn't quite work for me. So they do have those little rectangular shapes right now at Dollar Tree that are specifically for Christmas. So you might even get away with finding one that you like the trim of it, depending on what scrapbook paper you're going to do with those trees. And you could even just paint the foam board if you wanted it to go a little bit more neutral. If you didn't want the pattern of the paper, you could just paint it, and you could even go so far as to let the kids do it. Let them paint it, let them decorate the trees. There's just a lot of things that you can do differently, just depending on what you want to do. I did see one, I want to say from Kohl's, that was where they were actually made out of wood. So that was kind of like where I got the idea from. So on here, when you're doing this, you're just gonna, get a nice little glob of hot glue, stick your styrofoam part down, and wiggle it around. Make sure that the tree is kind of sitting right. If not, you can just pull the skewer right back out, and just like I did there, it wasn't sitting right, so you just pull the skewer out and then put it back down. It's really up to you. You could probably just put down the foam part first. Now here I played around with a couple of different choices of what to cover that stuff up with. I wasn't overwhelmingly excited about this tinsel, but it was the best option that I kind of came up with. So I'm just basically stealing it off of that little tree form. Anyways, I'm very unlikely to use it as it is. I'll probably use it for the form. So I just go in and cover up all of that green floral foam with the silver tinsel. I think red would have looked really pretty too. And there it is. It's all finished, and it cost us about $3.50 to make that one. Next, we are going to make one of these tapestry pillows. I will warn you, they are not all the same size. And on this one here, I have another set I should have looked at, but this set here, it is actually I think, pretty drastically bigger than the other. So just take a look at that when you're buying them at the store if you're planning to make a pillow out of them. Like I said, I have another set of the exact same ones. I should have looked at them both and seen what was the closer size. So I ended up making it work. I mean, you're going to fill it with stuffing, polyfill, whatever you want to call it. So I do end up just kind of gluing down all of the edges except for one, because I ran out of glue. What I'm going to end up doing is filling in all of those sides, and I'm going to put down some of this Velcro. Now, the reason for it is because I don't have a ton of storage space available. Not that I don't have it just, in my home, I just have it filled with stuff already. So I kind of decide I'll just do the Velcro. So what I did, I think I can't remember if I did it already or if I end up doing it now. You want to end up doing is putting down, 2 strands of your Velcro so that you mesh it together so you can just glue it all together as one piece. And this way, when you're ready to change out your throw pillows or whatever, you can just take the polyfill out of it and store it flat without it taking up a ton of space. There it is, all finished, and it cost us about $4.50, and that was mostly because of the polyfill. Next, we're going to make a sled. I had gone back and forth about what to do with this little sled. It's super cute the way it is. I see a lot of people cover it with scrapbook paper. I wanted to give it more of a wood look. So I'm going to go in with some foam board here in a minute. Go ahead and take it all apart. And just to warn you, there are pins in this little thing. Like, there's pins up where the little top part is, where it says "Let It Snow," and there are pins on the part where the snowmen are. So be careful of those pins. They are pretty sharp, and make sure you remove them. I had to go in with a pair of needle nose pliers to pull them out. So I was trying to make sure all of my pieces I could use again, so that is why I ended up going in with that heat gun, just to try to warm up the adhesive a little bit. Just like I said, I wanted to be able to use everything again. So you'll just go in, heat everything up a little bit, and then use your little putty knife and just separate it. Take your time, don't be in a hurry, because if you do end up doing it this way, you will want to use all these pieces again. So see, that's where I go in with my little needle nose pliers to get those pins out. They are teeny, teeny, tiny. You can barely even see them, but you will basically stab yourself in the finger if you don't get them out. So just be forewarned about that. Once you are free of those things, you're just kind of cleaning up the, oh, no, see, I still had more. They're really in there too, so you got to just kind of work at it. They're just not going to come out overwhelmingly easy. And I didn't realize I was filming and kept this film in with so much time of me trying to get those out. The struggle is real with those things. All right, so I'm just going to clean everything up, and I'm going to get my foam board. I am going to also link below where I have seen this technique. I did not come up with it. I am not anywhere near this good at crafting or art or whatever you would have it. So I am going to go in with a straight edge blade to cut everything out. The lady that is like the originator of this technique said that that's the best thing for cutting. I did come to the conclusion, though, it's really easy to end up going at an angle. Just be forewarned. The first person who actually kind of introduced me to this is Sammy from Unicorn Dust Designs. She's amazing. I love her. She's just the sweetest person. I've sent her messages back and forth here and there when I've had problems with anything YouTube related, and she's just the best. She's just, she answers absolutely every comment, and she's amazing. I will link her below as well, and I believe it's Peppermint something. I can't recall exactly what the name of the originator to this technique. I'll link her below too, because if you do end up wanting to use this particular technique, she's going to be the one you want to watch. She's got tons and tons of videos on making like this faux wood out of foam board. So I'll link her stuff below as well. So once you've gotten it all kind of cut out the initial shape that you're going with, and again, this may not be the best way to do it. This is just the way I ended up doing it. I'm going to go around and kind of try to clean up some of it too. So I'm going to measure out kind of even. There probably won't end up being very even, but I think I ended up doing like every 1.5 inches. Then I believe the very last piece ends up being just a smidge off. Once I'm done with that, I do go in with this handy dandy little L-shaped ruler thing to cut all of my, to draw on all of my lines. And it's a process. I tell you what, guys, I am just not the person to make great straight lines at all. So just to warn you, I'm not very good at it. But I think that this little L-shaped ruler really helps out. It is also from Dollar Tree. If you see it, pick it up. I end up doing it off camera because I felt the pressure, guys. I felt the pressure. So I drew on my lines, and now I'm just going to go in and cut it with that same razor blade. Just cutting it as best you can, cut straight. Try not to cut it at an angle. I definitely cut a few pieces at an angle. And I think she said on there the best way to get a clean cut is to start your razor blade kind of like before you get onto your board. So just go in and make the best cuts you can. I don't know. Like I said, this is my first time making one of these, faux wood foam board creations. I'm sure it is quite likely you will see it again, at least on my channel. I have seen some of the creations that they have made with them, and they look amazing. Like, you wouldn't look at it and say that's anything other than wood. So, anyways, once you're finished with that, and I'm apparently going to flip it around a few times, I'm going to get, I apparently my daughter came in pajamas to get ready. You're going to take the folk art antique wax and the clear wax. These are the two things I'm going to use. I'm going to just get a little sponge and I'm going to go into those two and start laying it down. Or do the edges. That's right. Do all of the edges. I did not do this the first time around, and I had remembered, they'd said to kind of put holes / make like little spots for like the eye, for the little spots in the wood, just to make it look a little more realistic. So you just go in, do all of your edges first though. I didn't do that. I ended up going back after the fact. And you're going to want it, but you want to do that first if you're not like me and you remember to do it that way. This was a learning experience. This first piece, it doesn't look anywhere near as nice as like the piece that's on the end. So I am not the end all be all of this technique though. I have to go back and watch a lot more of her videos because she just does an amazing job kind of doing this. And I'm going to go through and do pretty much all the pieces. In any of those little knot areas, you're going to want to try and go in a little bit thicker with the paint. Just kind of dab it in there so it gets it, really nice and saturated. And on this, if you do it and try to make it streaky. It sounds really weird, but you're going to try and make it a little bit streakier because that is what's going to give you more of that realistic wood grain look. So it ends up being just like a really nice effect when it's executed, flawlessly. I'm not there yet, but maybe eventually I will be there. And I go in, once I'm all finished with those, again, I go in a lot heavier on the knot areas. And they'll be very, a lot more saturated. Now, obviously, one thing I have not tried yet, you can use regular paint with the clear wax. I'm going to try that eventually. I want to do kind of more of like a light gray tone wood, faux wood, you know what I mean. And I'll film it. I'm not sure how it'll turn out, but I'm going to try it. I like it pretty good the way it turned out. I would say that this, between this and another one coming up here, I think the next one you'll see in the video between those two are my favorite. So pretty happy. It does look a little woodish. I wouldn't say it's foam board, but that's just me, I guess. Let me know in the comments if you think that this looks close enough like wood. So we're going to repeat that on this little part that goes up on the top. I had forgotten to cut it initially, so just to be forewarned, I was apparently doing most of it off camera, and go in heavier even than what I'm doing right now to the edges. You're going to use predominantly the darker color on the edges. So see how I did that? I kind of just put it down after I got some spots covered on it. I put it down, let it dry just a minute, and then you're going to go back in and go over it a little more to get into those areas that are white. So you get a little more coverage, it kind of just build upon it until you're happy with it, I guess. This is, again, new to me, and it's going to be all over your hands, just so you know. It'll be pretty much everywhere. So next we're going to use a couple of these Wreath Hangers. On this one, I should have gotten the red ones. I ended up getting 2 green ones. You're just going to bend the part that would go like up on your door. You're going to bend it back and forth a couple times because those things are thin. They are not hard to break at all. So I'm just checking it for size just to make sure it's going to fit right now that I've, taken it apart. And these little rails that are on the bottom part of your sled, we're just going to go ahead and paint them in that Waverly ink. And I thought, maybe I can be careful enough not to get it everywhere, not to, take the twine off. And I decide there's no way that's going to happen. I know better. I'm going to make a big mess. Let's put down the paper. Let's also put down, take off that twine. So just go ahead and go over it with a good, I think I ended up doing just like one really good thick coat. It doesn't have to be perfect, this thing. You're not going to see most of it because it's going to be on the underside of the sleigh. Try and make sure you get the edges though, you don't want them to be brown when the rest of it's black if someone kind of takes a look at it. just to give it a nice good coat everywhere. Cover all of that cardboard brown color. I guess in theory you could definitely paint them like the same color that your rails are. It just really depends. I kind of just decided I thought the black would be nice, you know, against the, well, those little metal parts, the rails. Here in a minute you're gonna see I'm gonna paint those too. I'm not leaving them green. I thought about it, but then I changed my mind. So I go outside and I just spray them with some gray spray paint, and then I'm gonna go over that with the Waverly Crimson paint once I find the right brush. There we go. It's just going to be a little chippy brush from the Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to do almost like a dry brush, maybe a little bit heavier than a dry brush. Yep, yes, we know, it's the crimson paint. And like I said, a little heavier than dry brushing. Because what I'm doing is I'm basically trying to make it look like it was metal painted red. So it looks like it's kind of getting worn down, because obviously if you think about the wood, we'll call it that for now, the wood of the sleigh is obviously a little worn, a little, you know, beaten down. So we don't want anything looking too nice and new on this sleigh. You could also do this if you got the red ones from the Dollar Tree. If you got 2 of those instead of the green, like I did, you can just start with it red, and then you can distress it from there by adding, you know, either black paint, gray paint, the antique wax, however you want to do for distressing. So I think I end up getting a good enough look. And to be really honest, at the end, you barely see any of these little rails, so I wouldn't be overwhelmingly concerned about it. So next I decide I want to go ahead and give it a nice base coat of that Waverly Truffle paint, because just in case some of my sleigh that's underneath shows through, I don't want it to be like light blue or white or red or any of the other colors that are going on the original one. So next we're just going to do a nice string of hot glue and start kind of covering up that sleigh. Another thing you could do, you could use a piece of foam board to put this on top of if you don't want to use the sleigh itself. It just really depends on what you want to do. I did see, and I should have picked it up at the Dollar Tree, they actually have like a foam or a foam board or cardboard glue. Has anyone used that? Has anybody tried that out and seen if it's worthwhile? I might give it a try on one of these kind of projects, just because the hot glue, it doesn't give a lot of forgiveness when you're putting it all together. You don't have a lot of time between the time that you put it down and it's dry to the point you can't move it. So next we're going to go ahead and glue down our sleigh to the rails, not the metal rails, but like the rail part that you painted. I really should have put it a little lower down, but it, like I said, it ends up working out just fine. It should have been a little lower on those rails. It's just, at this point, I was like, let me just get it all on there. It'll work. It'll be fine. And for whatever reason, when I was gluing it down, I was like, here, I'll just cover this entire part of the back with hot glue. Even though there's like, 2 inches on each side that it's going to be on top of the rail. I don't know. Sometimes I do things and I was like, oh yeah, that doesn't make a lot of sense now, does it? Like I said, you don't really see a lot of this little rail, and if you're trying to keep it at even lower cost, you really probably could have skipped this. I was just trying to make it look a little more real, I guess. Even though the sleigh is like teeny tiny, which I think at some point I might end up making a bigger version of this. I think it'd be really cute to do like a larger version of this with maybe like a decent sized wreath on it for like outside on the front door, or maybe even sitting up next to the front door. So who knows, you might see it again, making a larger scale sleigh. Let me know in the comments if you think that is something you would like to see. And I think it would be really cute to have like, maybe not like realistic size, but bigger than this, I will say, at least bigger than this. This is nice because you can just kind of do whatever you want with it. And this ended up costing about $4. And the next one, like I said, this one is probably my favorite. We're going to do this Merry and Bright sign, and I found these little gems at the Dollar Tree, an 11 by 14 Canvas, they do not have the frame, so you can't really do a reverse canvas on this. But I'm going to go in and paint it with the Moss Waverly chalk paint. I'm going to put that guy aside to let it dry, and then we are going to go in and going to do some stuff to this Merry and Bright. I had a few different things I was thinking of doing, and I didn't like the result of the first go around, so I did it a couple of different ways. So first thing I did was put down that antique wax. And then I was like, oh, well, it's a little dark. I mean, the word is bright, and it's not very bright. So I was like, maybe I'll just do a whitewash. I do the whitewash, as you can see here, and then I'm going to end up not really liking all that much either. I was like, it's not, you can't see the wood look through it. It's too thick, but it's not thick enough to be paint. Like I said, I wasn't excited about the way it looked. And I don't know about you, but that's kind of the way I like my crafts to be. I want to be like excited when I'm finished. Like, oh, I did such a good job. I really like the end result and whatnot. And I wasn't with the way either of these painting options went. So next I'm going to go in with the Waverly Crimson paint. And at first I was like, oh, I'll just dry brush it. And then I was like, oh, that looks pink. That isn't something I want to do. So I end up changing out my paintbrush, and I'm going to go in with a much thicker coat and not really looking to do like a full coverage. I want to let some of that white and wood color kind of come through. So I'm just going to go through and do that all around the whole sign. And like I said, I'm not looking for full coverage. I don't want it to be super thin because I think that it would be kind of funny if it was pink. This chalk paint, if you're trying to get like it to go into a pink direction, that paint is not a overwhelmingly dark red, and it leans towards pink really easily. So just think about that. If you haven't bought it, you like it, I think you can only buy them at Walmart. That's kind of the only thing. I like getting a lot of my paint from Folk Art, from Joann's. They seem to have the best prices on the Folk Art paint. So once I'm all done with that, it's dried. I like it for the most part as far as like the coloring to it, but I want to add a little bit more depth to it. So I'm just going to take my antique wax and go over it really lightly, just a little bit here and there, just to give it a little bit more of a distressed look to it. So I don't want it to look finished. And it definitely does not look like it's a finished sign as far as, you know, it's not like a solid red. For sure, definitely not. I wanted that brown to kind of tie in a little bit with more of the green that's going to be on the background. And I'm going to do that with my green moss sign too. I'm going to just go over it a little bit thicker than that. I want to just give it a little texture, basically. If you end up getting this anywhere and you feel like it's way too much in one spot, it is like a waxy coating to it. So if you go in with like some like a little bit, just a smidge, little bit of water, and you can probably like pull up some of it, you know what I mean? So once I'm all set and done with that, I'm pretty happy with the way the back sign looks, happy with the writing part, and I'm just going to go in with my hot glue gun. And when you're doing this, you got to work fast because you're trying to get it down before that glue starts to really dry. So I'm just going to push it down, and I'm going to use this nice burlap ribbon with the holly berries and holly on it, just to give it a little pop of something, because it just needed something. Do not follow me for bow making advice. I'm not good at it. Honestly, if I had an already ready-made bow done, like not done, but that would fit on it, that I probably would have just used that. But I end up wanting to have a nice long tail, and I kind of want to give it like a little bit of a little swoosh. I don't know what else to call that. So I end up just kind of gluing it down so it has a little spot that it's going to sit up. And I'll go in and see, I could not figure out what the area to angle for that one. I'll just kind of go in and trim down where I think it needs to be trimmed. And there it is, all set, and that one cost about $2.50 to make. All right, last one, and we're going to do this little shadow box on this little piece ornament. I really like the front side of it, of this little sign. So I'm going to leave the front side alone, and it's reversible if I want to. If I want to flip it around, I can. I'm going to clean it all up, take off the tag, get the heat gun on it just to get up all of that last little bit of the adhesive because we are going to paint it. So once that is set and done, I'm going to take off the little string. I haven't decided yet if I want to hang it somewhere or not, and you're going to just paint it all with that crimson from Waverly again. And next I'm going to take off that little embellishment thing up on the top of the piece ornament. It did not want to come off. That thing is like there's glue on it, there's some kind of like bristly wire in it. Be careful. I think it stabbed me a couple of times. So the staples weren't too hard to get out of there. So that was good. I know if you have any of those like wood, like composite wood signs that are huge from there, those staples just do not come out. So I was glad I could get those out. Next, I'm going to take like a dry brush and just give it a little bit of a texture look, almost like snow-ish. I ended up going in a lot thicker than I really wanted to, but I just decided we're going to go with it. I'm not going to go back over it with the red because I'm afraid it would turn pink. So just go over it a little bit here and there. I thickened it up a little bit in other spots so it doesn't look so strange. And this little piece ornament fit pretty much perfectly in this sign. So it feels like it was just meant to be. So once I've glued that down, I'm kind of trying different things to figure out what it is that I want to put on it. So first I need to cover up that little hole from where the embellishments were. So I'm just going to put a little bit of berries on it. And then I decide I'm going to use that little wiry, bristly thing. Just so you know, don't put your heat gun on it. I did that at one point and it actually melts those little green sprigs. So avoid that. Don't use the heat gun to help get that thing off. So I decided the 2 pine cones is too much, and I'm just basically at this point just kind of bending it together. And I'm just going to hot glue it in that little corner and just kind of press it in there and squish it down a little bit. I felt like it needed a little more glue because I don't want it to just, fall out. It's little pine cones, really cute, and I decided it needed something on the other side, so I have this little garland. I guess it's a garland. I don't know if it's a garland or if it's supposed to be one of those things you put the candles, like a candle wreath. Either way, I steal a pine cone and I'm going to just put it up in the top just to give it a little touch of something else. It's a little silver pine cone. It's super cute. And I added the bow after the fact because it needed it. And there it is for $3. Here is the finished products. Everything all set and done. Everything cost under $5 to make. I am super happy with the way everything turned out. And let me know what was your favorite. And if you end up making anything shown here, please tag me on Instagram so I can see it. And I will catch you guys on my next video. And please don't forget to subscribe. See you next time, guys. Bye.